through the Interverse. Here we are. It feels like it's been a really long time since
It
we've been live.
does.
Like we only missed 1 week, right? Yeah. Yeah.
But sure. This
Yeah.
happens every time we do that, though. We put an archive chat out and we're like, we haven't talked to each other in forever. We haven't gone
Right.
live in forever.
Yeah, we're really happy to be here live. And I know you all have been really feeling it. Alexis, how are you doing today in this moment?
I feel pretty okay. Um, the moon looks gorgeous tonight. I got to sit and kind
I
of look
didn't
at
get to
that for
see
a
it.
little bit before hopping on. I would say my overall mood is pretty good. How are you feeling?
I feel really good today. Today has probably been the best I've felt in weeks, honestly. So last week we had to cancel last minute because I just was not, I did not have the capacity to show up live for many reasons, but the energy I know you all have been feeling, as I've been mentioning, it's been really, really intense. And so many of us have been going through it, our family members, our friends. And let's just say I was trying to hold space for everybody and was not holding space for myself. And I felt the consequences of that. So we took the week off and uploaded an archive chat. If you haven't checked that out yet, we had uploaded our chat on spirit guides and dreams, and it was a really interesting chat. And it was one of our first ones that we did. Yeah, like on YouTube at least, I feel. And
I think it
so
was the first
was it the very
YouTube
first
one.
one?
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
were doing them on Instagram beforehand. And we
Yeah.
were just like switching over because
Yeah.
we didn't put it in the actual episode that we posted, but there's like a whole like introduction of like who I am
Oh yeah,
because it was for your
yeah.
channel. Um,
Yeah.
but
We were preparing to do lucid dream circle.
yeah, that's right.
So we were kind of giving some background on that. So yeah, if you want to hear all of that, you can check it out on my personal or my other account, which is Urania Universe on YouTube. And if you go to the playlist with the dream live streams, then or dream chats, I believe I titled that, you can see the whole full version because I definitely edit that out. But if you want to hear all of that, definitely check it out. It's always nice to like go back and listen to those past chats because like I just feel like I can go back to that moment and I'm like, oh yeah, this was coming up and we were doing this. And that was when we just started this journey and we still didn't really know, we had no idea it was going to be a podcast, like even in that moment. So it's really cool to like witness and experience how that unfolds like in reflection. So that was awesome.
Absolutely. And on top of that, like you pay attention more to how like you were then and you kind of try to round up all of what happened within the last year and like the differences and just the way you like we approach things. And I know I was sitting back and I was like, whoa, I gotta find some of that confidence that I had again. Like there's something happened where like I came down a little bit, but yeah, it was cool to kind of like jump back in time and see us frozen in 2024.
Yeah. Yeah. So I see a few people join live. So if you're feeling up to it, definitely say hello in the chat and let us know how your dream space has been. If you're watching or listening to this later, like you're listening to the replay, definitely feel free to share in the comments how things are going. And so, yeah, the topic for tonight, we're going to be talking about Chiron's impact on your dreams and kind of what that means. We're going to focus on Chiron and the signs and specifically focusing on the moon's transit or alignment with your Chiron placement. So we'll explain that in a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. Also, this week in astrology, I'll go ahead and touch on that. We have a full moon in Libra this week. It's not an eclipse or anything. So technically, we're out of eclipse season. But as I've been sharing for weeks now, that even though we're out of eclipse season, we started this lunar cycle with an eclipse, right? A solar eclipse in Aries. And so, the new moon tends to set the tone for the cycle. And so I do really still feel a bit of that intensity. And I definitely saw that intensity following that new moon. So ground yourself, breathe. If you're feeling a lot of intensity, know that you're not crazy. You know, I'm sure you know that because everything outside of us has been kind of crazy. And so, yeah, but what I want to point to with the dreams and astrology for this week is that we began the week with Luna in her waxing gibbous phase in Virgo. That's where she is right now. And so the way that's setting the tone for the week, especially as we move into this full moon, is that essentially our dream space may reflect where in our life we are needing some refinement. Maybe we need to cut out some things so we can continue to expand in our awareness. And also we may receive messages of either healing, like anything that's coming up for us that has been feeling, you know, just unsettled, or the challenges, or like say illnesses or anything like that. The moon at this time is more so going to be giving us some guidance with that specifically, and how we can change some things in our life right now as we move closer to the Libra full moon, and also just helping us to manifest whatever intentions we set for this new cycle. Also, I want to point out that the moon on, well, some of you guys, if you're not listening live, this will happen after. But on April 10th, which is Thursday, we have the moon opposing Neptune in Aries. So the moon's going to be in Libra, where she's going to have her full moon experience. She's going to oppose Neptune in Aries. And the way, I don't know, I've just been feeling this energy is that it may come forth as those compensatory dreams, where we have those dream experiences where it's like the complete opposite of our current reality, right? Or something that like is just giving us a completely different perspective or feeling or emotion about what is currently going on in our life. And I know from my personal experience that that tends to come up because I'm so focused on the other, like what is currently going on, whether it's lack or something I'm not happy with, because it's usually that type of emotion that there's so much emotion into it. Like my psyche is like, hey, like, let's have this whole experience to like kind of get your attention and neutralize that energy, because you're putting so much focus on like that extreme, right? Have you had any type of dreams like that, Alexis? Like any,
I'm trying to think,
right?
because I don't think that I really noticed that type of impact on my dreams while kind of reviewing them. I know that I had started a cycle. My I've been doing really bad with my dream note taking, so I started a 28-day cycle. But I don't know if I really, aside I guess from seeing people in my life that I haven't seen in a while, um
Yeah,
that's a very extreme opposite of what I'm experiencing right now.
yeah.
So I guess that,
Especially like it's like the close connection,
yeah,
and that, yeah, that I
absolutely.
definitely, yeah. Because it's almost like the
Absolutely.
physical connection, and that's the biggest thing, is like the physical distance and like everything else. So that definitely makes sense. I
Yeah,
would count that as that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, just to comment on what you said before, like I definitely still feel the eclipse new moon uh intensity, but I have to say the heaviness has almost entirely lifted from my shoulders. Like
Mm,
I not completely, but almost. Where like there's still some lingering feelings, there's
yeah.
still some lingering struggles, but for the most part, the heaviness that I had been feeling the last couple of weeks, like I
Yeah.
definitely am seeing that being lifted,
Yeah.
and it feels freaking nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I feel that too. Yeah. I think it was like I hit my bottom last week and now it's like going up. So I definitely feel that
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, because I was really like not
No,
feeling
it's not fun at all.
I'm not
It's
feeling
it's the worst.
it.
It's the worst. My dreams, we'll share in the what new moon, dark moon reflections, like the
Yep.
dream space over that period, because oof, it was dark. It was
Yeah.
dark for me. But I do feel the lightness coming through. So moving forward with the full moon in Libra, as typical with any like full moon influence, you can expect vivid dreams, strong emotional dreams, lucid dreaming, and the like. And with Libra, that's going to be themes of, relationships or balance and injustice or justices, or, maybe Alexis would know more than me, with all the Libra you have, but
I was like, how?
I wonder how. Yeah. So, but yeah, so that'll definitely be an experience. And I can see that already kind of coming through in my dreams already. And, the moon hasn't even reached Libra yet. So,
I feel like it definitely could touch on just the balance between the self and what you're giving away to other people. That's something that I feel like is a struggle on constantly. And I see that within my dream space. So with the moon coming in Libra that way, it might be emphasizing that, like how to find space for yourself
yeah.
within everything.
Yeah. So that's happening on um, the 12th, April 12th. Ooh, I'm seeing typos on my post. Oh, well, what are you going to do? All
No.
right. So on the dates. So the next one I want to point out is Sunday, April 13th. The moon in Scorpio will square Pluto in Aquarius. And this seems like it's gonna be a doozy, because we know
Ooh.
how the moon flows and works in Scorpio. And then with that square to Pluto, I'm just like, all right, whatever the full moon doesn't like bring forth, because I feel Libra is like so light and just like the harmonious vibes, and Venus on the same day that we have the full moon in Libra, Venus also enter retrograde cycle. So there's going to be a
Ooh.
statement made, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
just interesting, right? Like Venus is essentially or energetically standing still, right? As she's like in that in between, like she's changing orientation, and it's like her full moon. So I'm like, what's coming with that? I'm really curious. And so I feel that the moon in Scorpio squaring Pluto and Aquarius is going to be really interesting for our dream space. I don't want to say anything about it, because a lot of the times when I speak about the cosmic climate, it comes to fruition specifically for me. So I'm like, it's going to be a happy dream space. I'm just going to be like the phoenix and transforming, and it's going to be so great. So
You just know your astrology. You just know what it's gonna bring. You know it
I'm just
already. Like
like,
it's
oh man,
you
yeah,
you
it could
can
be
be
a
your
lot.
best, but it's gonna hit. And you know what?
Yeah.
We get through it.
Yeah, we definitely we get through it. All
Then
right,
you
so oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, in the video I was watching with you, you did say that pain is the best teacher. So
Oh,
these
yeah.
these difficult periods when we
It'll
go
wake
through
you
these
up, that's for sure.
heaviness, it
Yeah.
it is a great teacher. So you know
It's
what? You
yeah, it
can
is
find
great.
goodness in
Right?
all of
It's just
the
like nightmares.
dark.
Nightmares are like the best teachers of, like, when it
Oh
comes to
yeah.
dreams, like they give you, it's intense, but they give you that very quick, you know, opportunity for transformation and healing and all of that,
Yes.
and gives you
It's like a
direct
clap in the
insight.
face.
Yeah. So I'm just like, so Samantha's here. Hi, Samantha. Samantha
Hi,
says, hi, I feel the
Samantha.
lightness more
Sorry.
now too.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, it's like the weight lifted. And I believe Mercury's retrograde ended, right? It went
Yeah. On
indirect.
Monday it
So
did.
that might be a
So
part of
that
it
helped.
too. Like
Yeah.
all of these wonderful little like flowers of energy coming through with all
Yeah.
these
We're just
transits.
like,
Perfect.
so once Venus ends her retrograde cycle on Saturday, then all the planets are going to be in direct motion for a bit. I think
Hmm.
Pluto is going to be the next one to retrograde in May. But yeah, of course I'll be checking into that. But
Yeah, that's definitely going to be an
yeah,
interesting time.
yeah. So Jen's here. Jen said, I'm feeling the
Hey, Jen.
heaviness lift as well. I had a lot of nightmares and stress dreams during the eclipse corridor. I'm feeling the energy building. I'm also doing a cord cutting this week. Ooh, very nice. Very nice time to do that,
Fantastic.
especially with that moon square Pluto energy. The
Absolutely.
Scorpio. Yeah. Cool. So this is going to be part one of this Chiron impact on our dreams. And so, yeah, definitely join us or listen in next week for part two. So we're going to go through the first half of the zodiac. But before we even go into that, we do have a few announcements. So our upcoming Dream Circle is May 6th. For those of you who don't know, we changed from doing weekly meetings to monthly meetings. And it's also just a $10 flat rate for that. And yeah, and there's still only like a small amount of availability for that, like 11 spots are available. And so it'll help us all, be organized and like just know what to expect, right? So
Absolutely.
if you are interested in joining us, the link is in the description of this video, or if you're listening on Spotify, it'll be in the caption notes. Do you want to introduce Dreamigos?
Oh, yes. Okay. So, Urania and I are now working with a developing dream interpretation app called Dreamigos. It's Dreamigos. It's a cool place where you can go to either share your dreams with the Dreamline, open for interpretation. So other interpreters on the actual app can go and interpret your dream. Or you can go and check out the learning section where you can learn different aspects of the dream cycle and it's just a really cool place for you to record your dreams too. They give you the option to either type them or voice record them. Yeah, it's a really cool app. And so if you are interested in finding a digital platform for your dream practice, I highly recommend downloading Dreamigos. You can get it on the Google app. I think it's
Google Play,
iPlay or
yeah.
something,
Google Play.
Google Play, or the App Store. And I
Yeah.
believe there is also a desktop option.
Yeah.
If you don't want to use it on your phone, you'd rather type it on your keyboard.
Yeah.
So go check it out. It's fantastic. I've been having a lot of fun recording my dreams and interpreting other people's. So if you join and you put in your dreams, you might have one of us be interpreting them.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's been really awesome and fun. And if you're recording your own dreams, it'll show like your dream streak or how like
Yeah.
consistent you are. So it's kind of like encouraging and yeah, I really like it and I can see how it's really going to take off. So yeah,
I
definitely check
love
that
that you
out.
mentioned the dream streak because it kind of reminds me of like Snapchat, where
Hmm.
like you have chat streaks. It really is.
Yeah.
It like gets once you see that number go up and you're like, oh, I've recorded like
Yeah.
9 dreams, and it
Right.
tells you as soon as you log in, you get more excited to like add more.
Yeah. All right, so one more announcement. On May 4th, I will be teaching another dream class. This is going to be Lucid Dreaming 101. I taught this class previously through Ritual Crafts. So I'm going to teach it again for those of you who may have been interested and wasn't able to attend when I taught it the first time. And so, yeah, this is going to be kind of the basics on lucid dreaming, how to induce a lucid dream, what to do when you're in the dream, how to integrate, embody it, how to basically act on the messages or how do you reflect on that and interpret these kind of experiences. And so if you have experience with lucid dreams, you can still take this class because it's really nice to get multiple perspectives. I would love to hear of your perspective, and yeah, it'll be a really amazing class. So again, that's on May 4th. It's going to be online and the link will also be in the description of this video. All right, so let's get into Chiron. If you all have any questions about what we're discussing, to leave it in the chat or in the comments later. If you want to share your experience with your Chiron placement, if this resonates or yeah, anything like that, just feel free to jump on in the conversation. So we're going to discuss Chiron's impact on dreams and focus specifically on signs between Aries and Virgo. So, Alexis, do you want to share a little bit about Chiron's mythology?
Yeah, so Chiron is really interesting to me. I actually, the more I've learned about the mythology behind this, the more I've fallen in love with the creature in itself because basically Chiron was abandoned by his mother because he was born as a centaur. Now, he was abandoned, but then he was found and raised by Apollo, and Apollo taught him to become intelligent and kind, which is where this like wounded healer type of energy came in through. And I find this really interesting on a psychological level because when you think about abandonment and rejection and how you can recover or decline from that point on, depending on the interactions, the people who are in your lives, and how they change and um, add importance to different things. The fact that he was found by somebody who taught this kindness and was warm and loving in that way and really pushed intelligence and knowledge, it gave Chiron an opportunity to grow as a person and to grow as a mythological god. And I find that extremely interesting, and I love to think about that in relation to how we as society, how we handle our own abandonment and rejection. So I sorry, I lost my placement. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
Um yeah, that's what I have for his mythology. I know that there's more to it.
Mhm.
But I did um shoot, I'm sorry. Anyway, do you want to add to that? I like looked down and I was
Yeah.
like, I feel like I had more down there.
Yeah,
I'm
I thought
sorry.
you had more because I
I
saw
did.
your
I
notes too,
swore
but
I did.
sorry. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, 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 no. I'm sorry. I like was all ready to go, and then I like
Yeah.
that's my fault. Anyway,
So I'm glad you brought up the rejection and the abandonment, because the way that Chiron basically, like the beginning or the origin of his story is that Kronos, who is specifically like who is his father, basically had sex, or I guess possibly raped. Was it one of the centaurs, or maybe they were half human, half centaur? See, I should know more about this, right? But basically, and you can let us know in the chat if you know more. Um, but basically, Chiron came out as half human, half horse, right? As a centaur. And so he was kind of looked at as like a freak of nature, even though he was basically what, like a god or a demigod. And so he was abandoned by his mother, and the gods didn't want to have anything to do with him. So he was like basically isolated and shunned. And so he, as the story moves on, he basically had a wound that he, like with this abandonment and rejection, he also had other elements in which he really wanted to find the cure. Like he wanted to heal himself to the point of like he was trying everything, and he ended up teaching himself, basically like learning the healing arts, right? So he became a teacher of arts and medicine and a devotee of arts and medicine. And therefore, he then became a mentor for like the young heroes or the young gods. And so this is why he was known as the wounded healer, because he did so much in healing others, but he could not heal himself. And what was so remarkable about his story is that he ended up taking the spot at like for Prometheus. So Prometheus, I'm not even going to go into the whole story, but basically, Prometheus was chained to the rock, and every day, I believe it was like a crow or like a raven or something would come and like eat his heart, I believe, or liver, or one of his organs.
it was one of his
And
major organs
one of
that
his major organs,
was
I think it may have been the liver. But nonetheless, and like, so every day that would happen, Prometheus would die, and then it would continue, right? And like then he would like basically resurrect or whatever, and then like same thing happened, right? So it's like this weird Groundhog's Day. And Chiron ended up, coming to Prometheus and basically like, I'm in pain every day, like I'm in chronic pain, and so I'm just going to basically take that on. So basically, they were able to work out some deal where he was basically taking Prometheus' pain, and Prometheus was able to like go on and live.
yep,
And so, yeah, it's just an incredible story of acceptance and surrender, because I believe once he, took that on for Prometheus, I believe that's when he was able to like die, because that was the thing. He was like immortal, so he couldn't
yep,
die. So he was in constant pain anyways. But once he made that act of surrender, and also you could say compassion, then he was able to be released from his pain. And, then as they do in like these Greek stories, they're placed in the heavens. And so the way that is reflected in astrology is through the observation of in the movements of Chiron, the asteroid. And the way it is perceived or interpreted in astrology is that Chiron's placement essentially holds the key to healing on a deep soul level. So the wounds that Chiron represents are very deep. They're more than likely ancestral, definitely karmic wounds. And they also give you some sort of fate, insight into your fate and your divine purpose. So your Chiron placement can, give you insight about the pain and the lessons that you experience, and it will guide you, and it guides you to your divine purpose. So usually like the pain that you're feeling is how you are going to be of service, right? And so like the way I even look at it is like Chiron is the bridge between, say, your Saturn placement and your Uranus placement, where Saturn is like the karmic lessons, the challenges and things of that nature, the pain. And Uranus is like that point of liberation. So Chiron is like that middle ground, and it's that experience of like seeking it, like experiencing acceptance and surrendering. And through that surrender and that compassion, you are then liberated from that pain. And so in general, this gives a broader lesson to learn the value of acceptance and surrender. So then the keywords here for Chiron that I point to is rejection, of course, wounding, chronic, anything, pain, and mainly like chronic pain is what we're going to refer to, but it could be like chronic emotional wounding or just something that just doesn't go away and it's very present. But then it's also, the source of your healing gifts as well. So you really want to look at Chiron, of course, the sign that Chiron's in, but also where it is in your birth chart, because that'll give you even more of a deeper understanding of where in your chart or what area of life also encompasses that wounding and that chronic pain, and even that deep soul karmic wounding. And then that has a lot to do with um your divine purpose and how you are to be of service in the world. So I know in modern astrology, which was the first like paradigm of astrology that I learned astrology in, Chiron was actually the ruler of Virgo. So there's definitely an affinity there with Virgo energy and Chiron. So you got to be careful too with how you do give your energy, because if you are someone that gives and gives and you're not taking care of yourself, you will feel the consequence of that, which I
Oh,
totally
for sure.
experienced that too this week. It was like, I'm holding space for everybody
Absolutely.
except me. So yeah, that is kind of the breakdown of the mythology and astrology of that. Did you want to add anything as far as like these Chiron energies or keywords or anything?
I love that. I know you said it a bunch, but I just love that word surrender for this because it really does. Like
Yeah.
when you look at the Chiron, where it's in your chart and what sign it's in, and you investigate what that wound is from, childhood, I mean, even before your birth on, and how you need to surrender to those wounds in order to grow and heal and move forward. And I just thinking about what I've had to surrender to and where that point in my life was and how I've grown since then. It's a really
Yeah.
interesting. I really like this asteroid. I think this is a really cool
It's very
placement.
deep.
It's
Yeah.
very deep. I think it can be underestimated for sure how important it is. It especially with like pop astrology, they're not barely going into past the sun sign, moon sign.
Yeah.
So it's funny that this is such an important placement, and like the majority of the people who are only looking on the surface of astrology aren't even recognizing it and leaning into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So we're gonna, like we said, we're gonna focus mainly on the moon and Chiron. So like because we can all connect with that as the moon comes around, does its whole entire orbit every month through the signs. And so, and the moon also represents, you know, our deep emotional, it can represent our deep emotional wounds or like karmic attachments, emotional attachment. There's a lot of like ancestral connections with the moon, and even this like experience of memory and our cellular memory, and just like with trauma within ourselves and how that is held within the body, that there's definitely a connection to the moon with all of that. And so with the moon coming into alignment with Chiron, it definitely will have an impact on our dream space,
Mm-hmm.
in so many ways. It's going to really bring a lot of those wounds to, um, you know, to the forefront, I would say. Um, yeah, so with the moon and Chiron, essentially when they are in alignment, it will, like I said, bring insight to like our deep emotional wounding. Another thing with Chiron too is like a lot of the times it is like physical wounding. Even if it starts, say, in the mind, it's all like that surfacing within the physical body.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I'm going to want to point to as well as we go through the signs, is like take into consideration, you know, the medical astrology and the signs that are associated, like the anatomy that's associated with the signs. And that goes back like that's ancient, right? That really goes back, those connections. And so that's something you want to take into consideration when you're thinking about your Chiron placement. And also, yeah, I'm not even going to get into the deeper astrology, but just sit with the Chiron sign, because I was like, oh, and the planet that rules Chiron. Yeah, the sign that Chiron's in, but we don't have to go that deep. So yeah, deep emotional wounding, physical wounding, ancestral wounding. But then also with Moon and Chiron, it like there's that opportunity to heal. And so like the more you go within yourself and do the dream work, do the inner work, the more likely you're going to receive the guidance, the remedies, the healing, you know, that you are in need of, right? And then that is also going to just be reciprocated to your community or whoever it is that you connect with. So how to heal is one of those, is something that you might get insight into with Moon and Chiron connection, as well as, you know, you may come in direct connection with your ancestors in those, with those transits, or mentors or healing guides, as Chiron was, you know, a guide for so many and a mentor. Just trying to, I know a lot of us, when we have something that's chronic, like we're like anything, like we're learning all the different modalities, speaking to all the different, you know, experts on these matters, just to find like what can really like help me to release this pain, whether it's emotional, mental, spiritual, physical,
Yeah.
right? um so yeah, that's what we're going to be focusing on. And I also want to say that Chiron stays in a sign for about 7 to 8 years. So yeah.
It's like a long, but not that long.
Right. Yeah. It's enough to like, yeah. So I also want to, Jen says that Chiron's, her Chiron placement is in Aries. And she says, my Chiron placement sheds a lot of light on shadow work that I've done. That's amazing. And
Absolutely.
Chiron is in Aries right now. Actually, that's the first sign we're going to start with, of course. But I do want to say for you, Jen, um, so Chiron, you just completed a whole Chiron cycle. Um, and so this Chiron cycle basically brings forth a major breakthrough in your wounding, allowing you to gain the ability to see the whole perspective of your trauma and guiding you to fulfilling your divine purpose. So yeah, and any kind of aspects being made to your Chiron while you're in, like, while I would say while Chiron is in Aries, will just help you to peel back another layer of whatever this, you know, the trauma is like, or whatever Chiron represents for you. So you're at a very powerful like moment in your Chiron cycle. Um, and I know that too. I feel, I know you're experiencing that just because, you know, I connect with you regularly. So I definitely see that. So that's really amazing to hear. Just all of that coming full circle and a complete breakthrough is happening for you.
I love that for you too. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And I
Yeah.
love the synchronicity of starting with Aries too.
Yeah, right?
I just love that. I love that.
So I'll share just the body part and then Alexis, you can share what you have. So
Sure.
the body part associated with Aries, we have the head, the eyes, the adrenal, and blood pressure. And this is all coming from, as far as what I'm sharing about the anatomy, it's coming from the Zodiac man, I think is what, like, it's like the old school picture or document that they have of like this Zodiac figure, or sorry, the man with like the signs and everything like on his body parts. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so Aries is an interesting placement for Chiron. Of course, it deals with identity, self assertion, and
Mm,
personal power. So that's where you're going to find your wounding and your healing. So in the dream space, what might come up for you with dealing with this transit is a physical confrontation, struggling to stand up for yourself in some way or the other. There could be feelings of inadequacy or frustration with your sense of self or actions. So can come through in a variety of different ways. I mean, physical confrontation. I mean, that's what it is. You're going to be in a physical fight with someone or a physical argument with someone, struggling to stand up for yourself, whether it be physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, and just not feeling like you have power and control, like feeling very inadequate, feeling like you're not able to rise above whatever is going through this. So the dreams may reflect your need to reclaim your individuality, to
yeah.
assert your needs and to heal from your past wounds related to courage. And I think that's really important. And obviously, it's right on point for Aries.
Yeah.
If your Chiron is in Aries, and Aries is the place of just like fire and like moving forward and very like in tune with themselves, like, absolutely the issue there, if Chiron's in that placement, is going to be self-assertion and personal power.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely get that with like just having also with like Aries, like you were saying, like moving forward and just like ready to act. And I could see the way like the wounding could be is where it's like you always like it might be this chronic experience of like feeling restricted, like
Yes.
for whatever reason, whether it's like physical, mental, emotional, but it's like you just like there's almost as far as like there's like it feels incomplete or you can't move forward.
Yeah, like you're stuck
um
in the mud.
yeah, like you're
That
stuck in the
could be
mud.
the
Yeah.
dream.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you could be like something's chasing you and you're stuck in the mud, or like, something along the lines of a situation where you're vulnerable because you're not able to stand up and just like really
Yeah.
reflect yourself the way you need to.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I could see breakthrough dreams, like you being the warrior, you stepping through. I can also see because I always get like with Aries where it's like taking that leap of faith, taking initiation or taking initiative, I think is the right way to say that. Um, yeah, and just like
Decisive.
yeah, being very
Very
decisive
decisive.
in the moment, right?
Yep.
And so I don't know why would like I noted this, but I can see cliffs like or some kind of like those kind of type dreams where you're just kind of like at an edge. Like, I don't know. That's why, but that's like
Taking
my
that
own
leap
personal, yeah, taking
too,
that leap.
like
Yeah.
knowing
Like
you're gonna be
hesitation in
okay,
that. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
going. It's just it's such a strong Aries is such an interesting placement, and I envy it a lot because I'm the opposite. So like where
Uh,
Aries is very headstrong and like very self-assured and decisive, I'm like in the Libra, which is very like meek and kind of like trying to make
yeah.
everybody happy and like not very sure. I mean, I've gotten much better with it, but not very sure of myself. And then like being really indecisive. Like Aries is such a strong and powerful sign. And when Chiron is there, kind of stopping you from really feeling your full, having your full
Yeah.
potential, like the
Yeah.
frustration I can imagine is overwhelming, especially if your son's there too.
Yeah. That could be a lot. And what was I going to say? Oh, just thinking about, because right now in the collective um experience, Chiron is in Aries, and I could just see that whole like power play, like the wounding around
Mhm.
like power, empowerment, like feeling empowered, or who's in charge, who's the most powerful. Like that
Intention
wounding
behind
is like,
power.
right, yeah. So definitely I see a theme of that in the dreams. And Jen says, haha, so spot on. The reality that I've been able to work through these shadow work is amazing. Yeah, so spot on with that. Awesome. All right, so Taurus rules the throat, the neck, and the shoulders. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're having those transits, or just when you're reflecting on your Taurus, your Chiron placement. If it's in Taurus, I'm curious if you end up feeling um any chronic things going on with that. So yeah. So what do you have for Taurus?
So the themes for Taurus are self-worth,
Mm-hmm.
security, more so material security and sensuality, comfort. So the dream symbols with this, with Chiron, with the moon aspecting Chiron, um, the dreams could include themes of lack of deprivation, such as losing possessions or struggling with financial insecurity. So you not having any money, you not having a place, a house, not being able to have food
Mm-hmm.
on your plate, this aspect that grounds us in this reality and makes us feel safe is completely lacking. There could also be sensory experiences within the
Yeah.
stream space, like textures and smells. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so these dreams may encourage healing within your relationship with value and material needs, possibly suggesting a deeper connection to the inner security rather than exterior security. So finding that warmth and that comfort and that love within yourself rather than seeking it outward with material items. I know it's difficult. Again, I'm a Libra, so I completely understand, not the same but a little relating, so I can
Yeah.
understand how that can be frustrating in itself, but really really encouraging that relationship with where your values are at, whether you're like you know um spending money to fill a void.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really spot on. And like I can see, when you're in those really intense parts of your life, or you're in that chronic energy, you're deep in that wounding, like everything's at the surface, you're feeling it. Like I can see a lot of these dreams might come out as like nightmares in a way, or like anxious dreams. And one of the things I'm thinking with Taurus, it is that survival theme and security. And like, so you might have dream themes like around survival, or even like nature type dreams where there's like storms, or you're just like you have like a lack of shelter. I wonder if even like house dreams would be something too, where it's like, your house can be debilitated, it could be a shack,
Yeah,
so
holes in
there could
the
be.
ceilings, rain coming in,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sensory again, bringing that texture and
Yeah. This
sensitivity
high
in, like
sensory.
where you're normally comfortable and dry, you're wet and like you don't have the warmth, like all of
Yeah.
these things play such a huge aspect in the way that Chiron can come through in your dreams when it's transiting the moon. And yeah, that I mean, I don't love that.
Yeah, no. Like I'm already like getting excited about it. All right. So Gemini, as far as Gemini and its bodily connection, it is associated with the lungs, the nerves, the arms, and the fingers. So that kind of
Interesting.
tracks. Yeah.
The fingers always throws me a little bit. It's so interesting. The themes for Gemini would be communication, learning, connections with people, connections with themselves. So the dreams might involve difficulties in communication and misunderstandings, or feeling disconnected from others. When we think of like the difficulty in communication, it could be a language barrier. Sometimes in our dreams we speak other languages or speak
Mm-hmm.
languages that don't exist. And there could be a theme of you not understanding what the other dream people are saying, and they're not understanding you. So the lack of communication and understanding, there could be symbolic representations of mental blocks and confusion. So things going on and you being, it's very chaotic and you're not able to really identify what exactly is happening. The lack of communication, or connection. So not being able to have that connection with the dream people, or there being misunderstandings,
Mm-hmm.
miscommunications. What you're saying to them isn't communicating to them the way that you're intending it to. So it's misperceived. And with the healing message that comes through those dreams, it could reflect uh, wounds in your ability to express yourself clearly,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to feel intellectually connected with others. So, healing may involve embracing a more authentic voice, trying to find your own voice, your own way of communication, and connection.
Yeah, all of that tracks. My Chiron in my chart is in Gemini, and I would say what's chronic with me as far as like pain, so to speak, would be anxiety. My thoughts. Yeah, I mean, it's always been that's kind of where it starts. And I would say this really tracks because I think Chiron was in um or sorry, the moon was in Gemini on April 1st, which was last week. And that's when I essentially had like a nervous breakdown. Because literal typical Chiron experience of give, 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 doing all the things, taking care of everybody because I can hold it down, but not taking care of myself. And then it was a total like circuit break of my system. And that came through as like tons of anxious dreaming, which I would say I'm kind of prone to, which I could see Chiron and Gemini as far as dreams. That could be a thing, whether it might not be like it has to be like scary or crazy, but it could just be like I was talking to someone earlier today who had a dream where they were trying to, this is actually a recurring dream theme where they're trying to gather like papers, like paperwork, or just like random things. They're trying to put them in order. And it's like a whole thing. And then they
Oh,
finally get it in order. And then, or they don't, they wake up, or they get in order, they wake up. But it's like a very, and it's just like, it's not, it's something that's really mundane, but it's like, that's
no,
some
that
Virgo
sounds
or
anxiety driven
Gemini.
for me. Like, to have
Paperwork
a dream
everywhere.
where I'm just like trying to organize papers. I mean,
Yeah.
unless I had a movie playing in the background, also, I don't think I would like that very much.
Yeah, you're like,
No.
So no, that definitely tracks. And I would say, one of the things with healing that too is, and I will also say there's like a communication thing in my dreams. And so I'll actually share like really quickly, and I've shared this dream like so many times. So I'm sorry if you've heard our chats and
It's
you're
an
like, all
amazing
right,
dream.
it was a really good dream. But speaking of, Moon and Chiron, and how like Chiron in itself represents deep emotional wounds, ancestral connections, karmic attachments, all of that, spirit guides, ancestors, connection with those when that happens. The dream that I've shared many times where I basically entered into this like hole in the wall, like in between space, which was kind of almost like a speakeasy type, like parlor, but it basically there were fortune tellers there. I sat down with one of them and got my cards read, and it totally gave me the astrology. It was like, hey, pay attention to when the moon is in Gemini, like through the cards, I was able to like reflect and get all of this. So when I had the dream, the moon wasn't in Gemini yet, but like 2 or 3 days later it was. So I'm making this connection. But basically, it gave me a heads up about the anniversary of my grandmother's passing. And that is all also tangled into my Chiron placement, and it's in the eighth house. And so there's a lot of like deep, like hidden, like psychological things happening there for me, especially with the mind anxiety and my thoughts, and even my grandmother and my connection. with like dreams and consciousness and all of that stuff. So it just tracks, right? It makes sense. And that dream was very supportive. It was very healing. But it was also kind of heavy and deeply emotional. So that was like a perfect example of like a moon and Chiron alignment, I would say, like for me specifically, of how that was experienced. So I got like the pain, the healing, the support, all of that in one, because it's like you're not getting out of this emotional release, but I'm going to help you here with this to give you a bit of support. And it's something that's a dream that I always point to, that I think is helpful with explaining, just whatever I share about dreams.
Well, and too, that connection, it was almost like it was helping to heal your connection by
Yeah, it
giving you
definitely,
that. I
yeah,
mean,
it
and
did.
and that in itself is beautiful, and it just shows how far into this journey you are with your relationship with Chiron. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. I love that correlation.
yeah. All right. So, and I'll also add one thing. The communication, I feel communication was present there because it was tarot, and that is a form of communication.
Yes,
So
it
I'm just gonna say
is.
that. So
100%.
the next one is Cancer. So as far as the anatomy connection with Cancer, we have the chest wall, breasts, and some bodily fluids.
Okay. And the themes with Cancer are home, family, and emotional security. So you may dream of feeling abandoned with the moon in aspect with
Mm,
Chiron,
mm,
being unable to find a safe space or having issues with family dynamics. So you might have a lot of dreams of being in arguments with your family members or having issues with you know, finding them. You might be in a situation where, like, say, the dream is you're all at a restaurant and they go get the car to come pick you up to go home, but they all go
mhm,
home and you're just at the restaurant, like standing
mm,
outside of the restaurant, like that abandonment
mm,
feeling. Or, um, the dreams may involve themes of nurturing or being nurtured or the lack thereof. So, where like, what do you think of when you think of nurturing? You think of like the mother. So you might have the inclination within your dream of that lack of mother, maybe. And with this, the healing message could indicate, so these dreams could indicate a need to heal the emotional vulnerabilities or family related wounds, which,
mm,
I feel like even though this is primarily a Cancer, like Chiron wounds, like obviously it's more intense there. I feel like we
mhm.
can kind of all understand and empathize a little bit with the need to heal family related wounds.
And the
This
mother wound too,
and the mother wound, yes.
specifically.
So this encourages you to find emotional security within yourself rather than others. So kind of similar with Taurus, where the healing is to find that inner
Mm,
security rather than leaning on material items. It's kind of like this with Cancer, where your call, if your Chiron is in Cancer and that moon is transiting, the dreams might reflect you needing to find that strength within yourself and the reliability within
mm.
yourself rather than leaning on the people around you for everything.
Yeah. And I could see also, I mean, just having like my face, it was hard not to like have this sad look on my face because I was really feeling that with, it's just like it just feels really heavy, like very emotional.
Yep.
There could also be some wounding and some blocks to your intuitive abilities, your psychic abilities,
Yeah.
just some things you feel kind of blocked from that. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if people who have Chiron and Cancer might have some wounding around dreams. It
Oh,
might be
for
hard to
sure.
like, do the dream recall or anything like that. Um, so I think, one of the most healing elements of this Cancer, Chiron and Cancer is dream work. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, the dreams, I could see water dreams, really intense water dreams about water, involving water, like you said, nurturing and just like really highly emotionally charged dreams that can make it, really uncomfortable to do the dream work at times. And, when the moon comes back around to this Chiron placement, it will more than likely, really kind of trigger some of those dreams and those emotions surrounding it. And, just any kind of family like trauma or history that wants to come through. I can just see it just feels like it feels sad. So,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be, obviously. It could be just like the filling the blocks within your intuitive abilities for whatever reason. So,
Oh, for
everyone's different.
sure. Absolutely.
So, the next one is Leo. Leo, as far as its anatomy correlation, is the heart, the spine, the upper back, and the spleen.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I see all these things, right? So like when I'm looking at astrological books and stuff, I always see it, but it's different when it's read out loud. And it's really
Yeah.
like, especially because like auditorily, I do pretty good in
Yeah.
combination with looking at it physically. So like here, like the heart, it's very, all of these are very interesting.
It makes a lot of sense too.
It
To
does.
like think
So
about it.
the themes for Leo with dream work would be creativity, expression, and recognition.
Mm,
So when the moon is aspecting your Chiron placement, the dreams could involve feelings of rejection, not being appreciated, or struggling with self-expression. You might dream of being on a stage or trying to create, facing obstacles. So imagine it kind of like, I almost feel like it would be like running but not being able to run fast enough, that way with like creating, like that
mm,
blockage, that resistance, like you keep trying to, you know paint, but it
yeah.
just keeps coming out like white, blending in with the canvas and not having any form or real um validity. Or trying to be, if you're on the spotlight and you're trying to sing, or you're on stage, you're trying to act or whatever it may be within your dream, but you don't have a voice, you're not able to project that creativity the way you want to. You would
Hmm.
definitely face a lot of obstacles within that. And within healing, the dreams may suggest a need to heal these wounds related to self confidence, and the fear
Yeah.
of not being seen and or appreciated for who you are. So having
Hmm.
to dim yourself down
Yeah.
for everyone
Yeah. Like you
around
might
you.
be told that you're like too much and people
Yeah,
like abandon you or reject you because you're just extra, you're so dramatic or you're doing too much. Yeah. Or
yeah.
like maybe you weren't like, maybe you were one of like five or so kids and you wanted that center, like you wanted that recognition or you weren't the center of attention or just, yeah, I feel like that wounding for sure in that.
I feel like
And
also like a type of dream that might come through with this too would be like something embarrassing around performing.
yeah,
Like you're late on stage, or you're on
you're
stage and you're
naked.
naked.
That's what I wrote. I wrote that down. I was waiting for it. I was like, yep. As soon as I thought about this, I was like, yeah, they get the naked like dreams
Yes.
where you're like, it's a high school dream. You're like about to perform. And then all of a sudden you're on stage and you have like no clothes on, like something
Because
completely embarrassing.
absolutely, because it's one of those things where like you're expressive, but there's that blockage of your expression, and if you're embarrassed, you're not able to perform. You're not able to do all of what you've practiced for and what you are and what you have within inside. You're not able to shine because people are laughing at you in the crowd, or like, or you show up and nobody's there. That's something that's fearful
Yeah.
for a lot of people who perform, is like putting all this effort in and knowing no one showing up, and knowing being there to see you do what you've worked so hard for. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that was exactly what I had for that. Yeah, but I could see, yeah, in those dreams, like, yeah, definitely pay attention to that because that'll also, like, the more you pay attention to it and say, like, with any of these things we're talking about, just reflecting and journaling about it, like past the dream recall, past recording it, but then going back and maybe journaling or just like inquiring more through meditation, or just you don't even have to meditate, just simply inquiring in your mind, like you'll receive it in some way. And then you'll begin to have the dreams that reflect like the guidance, the mentorship, or maybe through that reflection and inquiry of your dream, you then will meet the guidance, the guide or the mentor in your waking life. So it's definitely like, even though the dreams, I feel like we're definitely pointing out the shadow, because that's we're with working with Chiron, and the dreams will reflect that mostly. But there is that healing side that comes through when you really take time to, be present with it and reflect on the dream.
Absolutely. And like my Chiron's in Libra, so we're going to be going over Libra next week. But we have Libra full moon coming up. So I'm really going to be able to pay
Yeah.
attention and
Yeah.
see how my dreams are reflected. And they already are. They already are
Mm-hmm.
reflected right now with where my Chiron placement is. And like I'll go more into this next week, but it's already showing up. And it's like, you know, it really brings to it, because it's not a nightmare. Like what I'm experiencing, it's not nightmares. I don't feel like my Chiron, looking back, especially at the dates that I had previously where the moon aspect my Chiron, they weren't nightmares, but they were definitely very strong and very indicative of where my soul is right now and where the
Yeah.
hurt is. And it's
Mm.
bringing it up to the surface. And it's like
Yeah.
now I'm feeling it not only in my dream space, but in my day to day, because it's making me face what's hurting.
Yeah. Excuse me. So we have one more left. That's Virgo. So Virgo's anatomy correlation is the abdomen, the intestines, the gallbladder, the pancreas, and the liver. So they're clearing out all the toxins and all of that.
All the
They're like
toxins.
sending things where they need to go, purify. Yeah. So it makes so much sense for Virgo, and its bodily function or connection makes so much sense.
Absolutely. And the themes here, again, for Virgo are health, of course, service, and perfectionism.
Yeah.
So the dream, within the dream, you may be overly critical of yourself or others. You could struggle with health issues or perfectionist tendencies within the dream. There might be dreams involving tasks or work related stress. So, kind of
Mm.
similar to that dream that you mentioned,
The
that you heard
paperwork.
with the paperwork,
Oh my God.
it could be needing to reorganize your work desk at work and not being able to find placements for what you have, or there being an overabundance of things that you don't actually have, and they're there taking up this spaces which is normally organized the way you'd like it to. You
Mm.
could be looking in a mirror and kind of just like pointing out every little thing about yourself you hate. Like you could be really overcritical of
Yeah.
your appearance. You could be
Yeah.
really like sick within the dream, like not be able to move, not be able to like breathe properly. Like these are all ways that this could come up within your dream space. And
Yeah.
these dreams could really highlight the need to heal these tendencies, these perfectionist tendencies, and allowing yourself to be more compassionate and accepting both with yourself and others. So I didn't add this one, but it could also come up in your dreams as maybe being harsher to people you love than you would in
Mm-hmm.
real life, and
Yeah.
feeling the shame and empathizing with their emotions and how they feel based on how you're treating them.
Yeah, I feel like shame is a big one for like as far as like those shadow um qualities about Virgo, which also is one of those with Chiron too, with that abandonment, rejection, and just how he's different, and then also the chronic
Yeah,
pain and all of that. Like there was this essence of shame there. And like
absolutely.
that's one of the biggest things with Virgo, which is like that purification and the cleansing and the detox and the perfectionism is it's like when it's like that can all lean towards like this desire for atonement, for like
Hmm.
cleansing themselves, like of the shame, of the guilt or whatever. So I can definitely see, a lot of that too. I can see it on the mental plane,
Yeah.
with Mercury being the ruler of Virgo. I can see Mercury or Virgo having like being also prone to anxious dreams, dreams that you just can't get control, whether it's like a car or like, getting organized, whatever it could be. Um, yeah, so I definitely see that. And as we mentioned, just taking note of what these dreams are speaking to you. If you keep up with the transits, the moon transits, taking note of when the moon's in the sign, like really paying attention to like the full moon, maybe like the new moon. But then all of the different phases. And on our Instagram account, if you have Instagram, Journey Through the Interverse, we posted how the dreams may be reflected within the different moon phases. So that's something you might want to take a look at too. And just like, because every month there's going to be a different phase of the moon making a connection to your Chiron. So it can like
Absolutely.
bring up those, like the dreams might be a little bit different. It'll highlight the wounds in a different way. Like, once you get towards the reflection or the waning part of the moon, that is the release, that is like the guidance and the healing, and the waxing part is kind of more of everything coming up to the surface and being very like, yeah, there and stimulated and whatnot. So
Yeah. And since we're ending on Virgo, just so you guys know, if you have Chiron in Virgo, the moon is in Virgo
oh
tonight and it
yeah,
doesn't change until the 10th at 9:12 p.m. So
yeah,
pay attention to your dreams tonight and see how your Chiron placement might be
yeah.
reflected within them.
Yeah, and make sure to join us next week where we go through Libra to Pisces. And so at least next week, you're going to have the experience. If you have your Chiron in Libra or Scorpio or Sagittarius, probably Capricorn too will experience maybe next week. So yeah, just take note, pay attention, and see how that connects with what we've shared here. And we would love to also hear your thoughts of how Chiron shows up for you in your dreams, possibly, and also its connection with the moon, if you have time to ever track that as well.
Yeah, and please, like Urania said, join us. Come to the live, and type in the comments how your dreams have been and how these placements have affected you. We'll read them out loud and kind of discuss a little bit with you too if we have time. It's really nice to hear what's going on in everybody else's worlds.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's it for tonight. We will see you post Libra full moon, and
Yes,
we'll
we
be back with
will.
more on Chiron's impact on our dreams through the signs. And yeah, have sweet dreams, everyone. Awesome. Look at us.
That
Right
was
on
so
time.
nice.
That was good.